Okay, today we're going to be tackling a topic that's both really, really scary and intimidating, but also pretty simple once you have a better understanding of it. And the topic is on improvisation, or rather, how do you improvise, specifically on the guitar. Now, if you've never improvised before, this may seem really, really intimidating because improvisation essentially means that you don't know what you're going to play. You're just going to go in there, blank canvas, and you're just going to be free, let your creativity run wild, and create music spontaneously on the spot. Now, that sounds really great, but it also means that what if you're not creative? What if you don't know what to create and you end up just making a mess out of it, right? Okay, now I want to tell you that improvisation is not as free as you may think. It's not just going in there and playing whatever you want, all right? There are structures in place, rules in place that will help you and guide you so that you are creating music on the spot within certain frameworks. And today I want to present two frameworks for you so that you can have an entry point into improvisation. Now, the first one is going to be a bit more straightforward and simple, and the second one is going to be a bit more challenging. But the first one first is basically what I call the universal scale approach. Now, what this means is that now I'm going to play a chord progression in E major, and basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to use the E major scale to improvise over it. And that's it, okay? So the chord progression is a pretty simple one, just a 1, 5, 6, 4, or an E major to a B, to a C sharp minor, and then to an A, okay? So this is a very, very common chord progression in pop music, like this. E to a B, to a C sharp minor, to a A, and back to an E. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my E major scale, and it goes like this. Alright, now if you want to learn how to play the E major scale, you can go download my free scale melody guide. It's the links in the description below. Just go to my website, it's free, okay? And there's also chords and solfege and a lot of stuff that you can download for free to follow along. But anyway, now over that chord progression, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna play random notes in the scale over it, and we'll see how it turns out, okay? So E major, B, C minor chord, A. Now, that may not sound very spectacular, but let's try to get a little bit more into the groove of it. I prefer to improvise up here in the closed position, so I'm going to get my scale up here. There's an E major scale. You can go find that in the scale position guide, alright? And then the chord progression will be here. It's a C sharp minor. Now I'm just going to improvise. Right, so you see what I did at the end? I basically just played the whole scale descending like this, right? And it kind of fit in. It wasn't wrong. Let's try that again. Okay, so now one thing you may have noticed if you are an experienced musician, I made a mistake there. I played this note. This is the sharp 4 note, alright? It's not in the E major scale, but it's okay. Improvisation is about recovering from your mistakes and making it seem as though it wasn't a mistake. And in fact, a trick is to make that same mistake again so that you're kind of fooling your audience to say that it's intentional. I intended to do that because you did it twice, okay? Now, the thing is, you will make mistakes. We are all human. But let me show you, I'm going to make that mistake and I'm going to remake it again. That will sound kind of like I meant to do it, okay? Let's try. Right, make it. See, I'm emphasizing. Alright, so what I did was emphasizing this sharp 4 note, which was the mistake note, alright? And then what it did was it kind of gravitated me to the Lydian mode, alright? Which is actually just the major scale, but instead of having the natural 4th, it's the sharp 4th, like this. Alright, but you need to have the knowledge to grasp that Lydian mode to make it kind of convincing in your little improvisation, okay? So now, that's the simple approach, right? Universal scale. of course, I'm playing both the chords and melody at the same time. If you can get a jam track or a loop pedal, just play the chord progression and just jam over it using the E major scale, and you will more or less be fine. Now, the second approach that I want to share with you is improvising over specific chords. Now, for every time that your music changes its harmony, you're going to improvise in a different way. So we're going to use the same harmony. This is chord number 1, E major. Now, I'm going to find what are the notes in my E major chord. Okay, I'm going to play it up here. Now, my notes are this one, right? Do, mi, so, do, so, mi, do. Alright, if I make it a 7th chord, do, mi, so, ti, ti, so, mi, do. Alright, this is what I call the arpeggio approach. Arpeggio basically means that you're taking a chord and you're breaking it down into its individual notes and playing those notes that comprise of the chord sequentially in a linear fashion, and that's called arpeggiating a chord. Alright, so over the E major chord, I'm gonna play the arpeggios like this. And over the B major chord, I'm gonna play the arpeggios again. Alright, and for the C sharp minor chord, arpeggio. And A major chord, again the arpeggios. Basically playing the chord tones one after the other. Of course, you need to practice this, but now I want to just show you how it will sound like when I'm using the arpeggios alone, right? Just the arpeggios improvising. This is how it will sound like. Okay, now I want to. I know that didn't sound very good. Why? Because I'm only using arpeggios. I'm jumping notes that are always a third apart, right? These notes are very far apart. It sounds like I'm jumping all over the place, like this. Alright? It doesn't sound as though the melody is flowing, but rather it sounds as though it's jumping and leaping here and there. So the trick for this approach is to combine it with the universal scale approach so that you're using both the scale, which is kind of like a staircase, and the arpeggios where you're kind of like jumping from one step to the other. So you're jumping and stepping back, jumping and stepping up, so that it kind of gives you a lot more flexibility and variation in your improvisation. Now let's hear what it sounds like. I'm going to use both approaches combined. Right. So that's my approach of using universal scale and arpeggio. Now, just a bonus, which I was doing a little bit there, is that you can go to a third level where you use some chromatic notes. Chromatic notes means that you're using notes outside of the major scale. So if this is the major, or outside of your diatonic scale, it could be a minor scale, it could be any scale, but this is your major scale. Now you can use some chromatic notes to pass in between the notes. So these would be called passing notes, like this. Right? But don't stay on these chromatic notes because they sound really dissonant in the context of the music that you're playing, which is in that particular key. But use them as passing notes, like this. Right? And there you have it. So one more time, I'm going to improvise and I'll show you what I mean. Alright, now if you want to learn fingerstyle guitar with me in depth and learn how to arrange your own songs on fingerstyle guitar, then check out my Fingerstyle for the World course. The links are on the description below where I go through all these concepts really, really in depth and I practice alongside with you. Okay, so I hope that you enjoyed it. Now let me know if you have any questions that you want me to tackle and answer on guitar playing theory, whatever it is, right? I try my best. Let's keep this conversation going. Alright, so have a good day and take care. Bye-bye.